There's a few common reasons car accidents happen and claims happen. Today we're going to talk about the 5 most common claims that are in the auto insurance industry. But before we do that, we need to find out if your warranty... No, we'll dive right into this video. The most common way that people have car accidents are going to be is somebody hits another vehicle. And that's the obvious reason that you have car insurance is if you're the at-fault driver, you've got to be careful of a few things, and there's a few steps that you need to take. The first piece is you need to take photos. I highly recommend that you make sure that you document what happened, because it's so many times that you both go your own way, especially if nobody was injured and the next day you're not feeling well, or the car is damaged to the point where you're gonna file a claim, but then when you go to file it, that other person already called their insurance and told them it was your fault. And it wasn't your fault. So it depends on that situation. In most to almost every state, there is a law where you have to call the police if it's more than $1,500 worth of damage, or if somebody got injured or even killed. Obviously, you're going to call them if somebody dies, but in those situations, you need to make sure the police get involved. They're not necessarily going to determine fault, although they can, because that is a completely separate thing. You've got the agent or the insurance company and the policeman. They're going to take down the info, submit what happened, and then your adjuster or your insurance company will go through that police report to find out whose fault it was. If unfortunately you were the one at fault and you're going to file this claim, just know you're going to see anywhere from a 25 to a 40 some odd % increase in your policy. I unfortunately know that from experience because we recently had one about 3 years, almost 3.5 years back. I myself had a similar incident where an ambulance went through a intersection and I didn't stop in time for the guy that stopped in the middle of the intersection, and that was naturally my fault. I should have had more attention or had a further distance, so I got a failure or following too closely ticket, as well as a failure to yield, and I ended up paying those tickets as well as having my insurance increase a little bit. Fortunately, I'm in one of those states where you can go a 3-year and a 5-year state, where most companies go back 5 years for claims. The company that I'm with only went back 3 years, so that claim is starting to fall off now, so I'm getting those better deals again. The second most common claim that we have is hitting a physical object or inanimate object, where you hit a pothole, you hit a post, you hit a guardrail, you hit your garage, anything that is going down the road. So that's very common. It happens a lot. But similar to what we just talked about, that also is an at-fault accident, because there's nobody to go after for the insurance. Whether it was a pothole or something that was stationary, you have to have maintained control of the vehicle. So if you hit the pothole and don't go around it or don't slow down for it, then that's, even though that might be part of the city's issue, it's also your issue when you're filing a claim, and you're going to see an at-fault accident appear on your driving history if you file one of those claims. There are some debatable ones where if it's like a baseball that hits your car, or it comes in front of you and you hit it, or something that runs out, pedestrians don't count because they have the right of way each time, and their life is worth you getting a at-fault claim versus slowing down and paying more attention. So there are some situations that are debatable. And even if you've already had that file claimed, as we mentioned in our claims video here, it will talk about how we can defend those and fight those off of your record. So if you're going with a specific insurance company and the rate seems high, that could be a reason that you're getting that. And just talk with the agent. They usually can talk to an underwriter and try to get that removed or fixed to a not at fault claim at least. The third most common is rollover. If your vehicle rolls over in an accident, there's a couple things that you have to be careful with. That also could be at fault or not at fault depending on the situation. I've been involved in the car behind somebody that rolled over before, and it's kind of scary. So it was taking the turn too sharp, and most commonly it's an at-fault claim. In situations where you have to stop too fast, you have a top heavy vehicle, that's one of the reasons they don't like to insure what's called a CJ type of Jeep, because those have a tendency to roll over more than most vehicles. If that happens, in those cases, it's usually not the person's fault, so the medical kicks in and all of that kicks in, but in most situations, it's considered reckless. And if you are reckless driving, you're taking a corner too sharp, you're racing somebody. In a lot of those common situations, you're gonna have high speed, high turns, and most uncommonly, that insurance is gonna not investigate that, and you may have an at-fault accident on your hands. On top of, they might completely deny you altogether if it's considered reckless driving, because that's negligent, and insurances don't cover the reckless or negligent occurrences. The fourth most common is kind of similar to the object piece, where it's you hit an animal. A deer is very common, a dog is very common. I've done that myself as well. I've actually done both. Okay. Anyways, either way you go, those are comprehensive claims. Also, some states count those against you. It's just the rules. Unfortunately, the state determines whether that's allowed or not, and it commonly happens in some states. Most states don't. Even in the state that I'm in Michigan, we technically do count them against you, but most companies don't count them against you. And that's one of those benefits that we get, where if we file a glass claim on our windshield because of a chipped rock, or we have an animal that we hit, and we have something where it's a comprehensive claim and the car was parked and a whole bunch of debris came and scratched up the vehicle. In those situations, they can technically count them against you, but they usually don't in our state. And that actually answered the fifth most common, which is a windshield crack, which is also a comprehensive claim. Once again, determine with your agent whether it is worth claiming. In a lot of people's deductibles, you have $100 or more, and sometimes it's $200, $150 to replace the windshield. If they're gonna rate that against you to do it, in my opinion, I don't think it's worth it. Otherwise, if you have a zero deductible or a full glass coverage, then you don't have to pay that either way, and they don't commonly rate that against you when you have the full glass on top of your policy. That essentially means no matter what deductible you have on comprehensive, you pay zero for any glass or chips or anything like that. Just be careful if you're going to file a claim and you're not sure if it's going to affect you. Let's try to find out how it will affect you. I personally am going to tell you, as an agent, it does kind of not necessarily annoy me, because it's always a different answer. One thing you should do is, if you're working with an agent that works with multiple companies, don't fear telling them the story, because they're going to help you find out whether it's worth it to file the claim or not. But if you're calling a 1-800, this is a call center, they're going to put the claim on your record whether you file it or not most of the time. So be a little bit careful there. When you're talking to an agent, ask them what kind of effect they can see. It's more work on the agent's end, because they're probably just going to have to call the claims department and do what if this happens situation. I've got a customer that was looking at buying a policy, and they want to know how much of an increase they would see if they hit a deer with you guys. And then they can come back to you and let you know whether that's something that is claimable or not. But that's really what their job is. It's their job to protect you and give you the best answers. So although I would fair to say half of the agents are annoyed with those pieces, it's part of the industry that they should be willing to and happy to help you guys with. If they're not taking care of you well, you need to start shopping, and I will recommend a video that shows you how to shop based off a review for different company options. At the end of the day, if you guys got value out of this, I would love it if you smash the thumbs up. That helps me the most with the algorithm. Subscribe if you want more tips and advice on how to save money on your insurance. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of the future videos. Otherwise, I'm Mark with Think Insurance. I'll see you in the next one.